Welcome back to the IE427 Garage, everybody. I am continuing work on the Coupe today, and I am going to get to that battery tray. I have just gotten sidetracked. I got, in the last video, I think I showed you, I got the clutch and the brake switch that came in, and so I had some extra time, or not extra time, I just had some time when I got home from work today, and so I figured I'd tackle those first. So come right back and I'll show you what I've got going on as far as those two switches, and then we'll continue working on the Coupe. All right, here is a view of what I guess could be considered the genuine GM switch that we got for our brake pedal switch. This is going to activate your brake lights when you go ahead and press the brake pedal down. Now that goes in just like the one that you get with your kit. As long as you're using that Willwood pedal assembly, that's the one that's going to go in there. We're just changing the brand. And I've already packed up the ones that came with the kit, put them in the box that we got this one in, so that the owner will have those as replacements, or he can toss them. It doesn't matter to me. But I've got that in, and so it's all ready to wire. Now I've tested it, and what I've done basically is I've taken my multimeter, I've put it on the highest ohm setting, and I've just activated the brake pedal by pushing it down to see exactly where those lights will engage. And this switch is actually right at the top. So you just touch the brakes, the brake lights are going to come on. And I suggest you all test them before you get to that point in your build where you're starting to turn different circuits on, utilizing the battery or a battery charger or whatever you're doing to test. And it's really easy to do. I mean, I've got this $5 multimeter that I have here in the shop from Harbor Freight. I always get these when they're the free giveaway. So I have a couple of them upstairs. When I drop them and they break, I don't feel bad about it. And I just grab another one, you know, because I've got, I think, 2 or 3 left. And that's the one I use right here at the car. I have another one. I have many. I've got a really nice Greenlee one, and I've got a couple of Fluke ones that are also clamp meters, so I can test for amperage. But I use those primarily at my other job, my construction business. But I'll drag them here in the shop when I need to do something that I feel needs a better tester. But these things work great. These little $5 ones from Harbor Freight work great for this. It's just an on and off switch. And so you just want to make sure it engages first. And secondly, you want to find out where on the stroke of the pedal it's actually engaging, because if it's all the way down at the bottom of the brake pedal, your brake lights aren't going to come on until you mash on the pedal to apply the brake. So what good does that do if the lights don't come on and somebody rear ends you? So this is what I do. Same thing. These are just a cheap set of alligator clips from Harbor Freight. They sell them in like a 5 or 6 pack. And I just alligator clip those on to the test leads. One there, one there. And then for the clutch switch, I'm going to show you in just a minute, I've just got them on the bare leads of the pigtail. But on that brake switch, you just tie them to the leads that are coming off the bottom. If I remember right, you're going to be using the front leads, but don't rely on that, because I've taken 2 of these ones from Factory 5 out of the boxes, installed them in. One is positioned so it'll activate on the rear part of it. One is activated on the front part. But both switches, clutch and brake, are supposed to operate the same way. It's supposed to basically close when the plunger is out, not in. And so I don't know why these switches have this issue where some of them are wired one way and some of them are wired the other, because it's a standard GM style switch. And so if you're putting these in a vehicle that has some type of harness and it uses both, like let's say it uses one for the brake and one for the cruise control, they're opposite function. And if the harness plugs in and they're backwards, it ain't gonna work right. Lecture over. Anyways, so test those. Make sure that you are tied on to the contacts that are gonna basically close or be closed when the plunger is all the way out, because that's what it does. The plunger is pushed in when the brake pedal is up. When you apply the brakes, the plunger comes out, completes the circuit, turns the brake lights on. So what I've done here is I have put the genuine Motorcraft, so the Ford Motorcraft switch, the clutch switch, right in here. I think you can see that. I can't see it, but it's one of those things. Anyway, so I put it in here with the bracket that comes with the complete kit and the Coyote engine fitment kit, or whatever that is. And I put the activator, which actually goes onto the clutch push rod for the master cylinder. I've got that installed. And so now I've got the test leads hooked up to it. I'm going to push down on the clutch pedal. Now, the clutch has not been bled yet, but this is okay to push it down with no fluid in it. It'll be just fine. There is some residual fluid from when they assemble it, so you're going to be fine. I'm going to push this down, and we're going to watch that meter go from the number 1 to a scaled number. Right there. So now we can come over here and see that my clutch is almost all the way at the end of its stroke. That's where I want it. That clutch pedal, in my opinion, or in my experience, you want it all the way at the bottom. You want to make sure that the clutch is disengaged when you turn the key. You don't want that switch to close way up at the top. With the Ford one, you really can't, because you'll end up breaking the switch. You want it down at the bottom so that if you are in gear with the clutch pushed in, if the clutch isn't fully disengaged and you turn the key, the car will move. And we don't want that. So I want it all the way at the bottom. So I've adjusted it that way. Now we may need to fine tune it when we actually get the hose, the AN hose, from the clutch master down to the slave cylinder at the transmission. But we'll fine tune it then. It won't be a big deal. There's a slide mount on this switch right here. There's grooves in it, so we can push it forward or back it up and fine tune it exactly where we want it. Now, I like the clutch pedal high. You can see I've got the clutch pedal pretty high right there. I believe this is a 3/4 of an inch master cylinder, and that's what was provided with these kit, or this kit anyway. You may find that you need a different master cylinder depending on what you are activating with it. So for instance, we're using the Forte's slave cylinder down at the TK, what is it, the T56 Magnum transmission. But you may find that if you're using a internal hydraulic throwout bearing, that you might need a different volume of pressure, or volume of fluid down at the transmission than the one we're using. We have enough stroke on the pedal that I believe the one we have will work just fine. But if you're one of these guys that wants, you know, this clutch to engage and disengage like within 2 inches, you may find that you need to get yourself a different volume or a different diameter master cylinder in order for it to work the way you want. Now, remember, when you get a bigger or a lesser volume, it may also change the amount of effort that you have to push on the pedal in order to get the clutch to engage and disengage. It's hydraulic, so it's usually pretty soft anyway, but those different size master cylinders will affect that as well. So that's where I'm at with those two switches tonight. I'm just about ready to go in for the night, and I'll probably catch up with you guys tomorrow when, again, I go back to working on that battery tray. I've got to get that brake line put back where it was, because I found out it's not gonna work. The battery tree is not gonna work the way I'd hoped it was gonna work. So I'm forced to use spacers now. So the brake line is gonna go back where it was. I'm gonna make spacers, get it all set up, and then I'm gonna take those panels, that panel, some other panels that I've got for the car to powder coat, and they'll get powder coated black. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. It is about 24 hours later, and last night before I went in for the evening, I went ahead and I sanded, scuffed the black paint that was put on the fuel tank, and I got it ready for paint. And this morning, I took compressed air, I blew all the residue and what have you off of it, and I got it ready to paint. So I wiped it down with some acetone lacquer thinner just to get any dust that I had missed with the compressed air. And I got a single coat on it right now. Now you can see I'm going with gloss on it, and there's a reason for that. One, it's not gonna, well, there's two reasons for it. One, it's not gonna be seen. And two, the gloss rattle can seems to be more rugged over the long haul. I don't know what they painted it with. I don't know what brand it was or how the prep was done on it. But because we've got it scuffed and we've got it very clean, this paint should adhere and it shouldn't chip or just start flaking off the surface. So with just a single coat on there, you can still see some of the imperfections from my sanding. But as I build up I'm going to put 3 coats on it. So 1, 2, 3. As I build up those coats, the paint's going to get a little bit thicker, and then I'm going to let it sit out in the sun for probably the next day or so and let it really harden up the paint. I'm also going to flip it over because the bottom of it has just standard semi-gloss, or it might even be flat paint on the bottom, just to give it another coat. That side of it, the bottom side of it, sits inside the liner. I almost called it a trash can liner, but it's a fuel tank liner, and I've got that sitting over here. It's a little scuffed up too. I'm going to go ahead and give that thing a little attention before I bolt it all back in place. Now, I only pulled out those items that I knew would come out really easy and I wouldn't have an issue with. So, for instance, I left the fuel pump and the fuel pump hanger in the tank, and I taped around them. The sender is easy to get out, and so I just undid the lock ring, pulled the sender out, and then taped around the inside of the hole so that when we go to put it back in, it's going to get a nice seal on that factory surface. The same thing with the fuel pump. I didn't pull it out, but it's sealed on the factory surface for the O-ring, and so I'm confident it's not going to leak. On the inside of those others, the fill hole and the vent tube, you can see what I did is I actually taped on the inside of those openings. So I've got masking tape around the inside here to basically give me that factory surface that's going to seal against, because there's no pressure, but the weight of the fuel, is going to want to seep past that rubber O-ring if that paint fails. And so I don't want any of that spray paint or that rattle can paint that we're putting on it to be inside that surface right now. I want it all to be the factory surface so that we have the best chance for it not to leak. The same thing with the vent on top. So I got a question a while back, I think it was probably a couple months ago, and someone was asking me about this big bore fuel tank vent. And I'm not sure who sells it. I think it's one of the vendors. And they asked me if it was necessary. I've never found it necessary. If you install your fuel filler and your vent properly, and we always suggest to run the vent into a charcoal canister. We like the OEM one. I don't like one made out of sprinkler parts or fish tank parts or whatever. I just prefer to go with the OEM solution, which is we use the vapor canister recovery tank for a 94, 95 Mustang. It just allows everything to work properly. And then the other trick when you're filling up is I never leave my car unattended. I don't just stick the fuel fill her in and then, walk away. I'm usually there when I'm filling it, but I've never had a problem with it overflowing or anything, is make sure that when you assemble all your hoses that they're tight, your clamps are tight, and two, that there's no kinks in the hoses. Now, it's hard to kink that 2-inch hose that's provided with your kit, but you'd be surprised at some of the shit I've seen when I'm taking some of these cars apart when we do rebuilds and stuff. So just be conscious of that to make sure that the fuel's going to flow in properly, and you're not going to give the fuel an opportunity to build up in one pocket and not allow air to escape. That's when you have trouble getting fuel into the tank at the fuel station. So I think that's going to do it for right now. I don't know if I'm going to bring you back later or not, but I'm just working on the same stuff I've been working on. I've been working today on the accelerator cable, trying to figure out a routing for that, and I'm working on panels again. So if I find anything that is anything out of the ordinary, I'll bring you guys back and show you what's up. This is how quickly things can change in the shop. Just got a delivery notice and went out in front of the shop, and sure enough, UPS had just dropped off some spacers that we ordered from McMaster Car, I believe, and they're for our battery tray. So I had put some temporary spacers in there, just plastic ones, so I could get all the measurements and everything. And when I ordered the spacers, I needed 5/8 thick spacers, but the 11/16 were less expensive by almost. I think they were per spacer. I think they were like 70 cents or 80 cents less expensive to get the 11/16. So I'm like, well, might as well get 11/16. Another 16th, probably give us a little bit more space in between that brake line, the cushion clips, and the battery tray. So I ordered those up, and 2 days later, they're here. So I've got those installed, and you can see the front two right here. So if you're looking for these on the McMaster Car website, they're near the top, and it says, I think, spacers. So don't go to tubing, because they're not in tubing. They're actually in spacers. And you can select them by a couple of different ways. I selected them by the screw size that I was putting through them. So a machine screw at 1/4 of an inch, and then they ask you what your outer diameter it is. I wanted 5/8 outer diameter because I wanted as much bearing surface as I could get. And then, of course, the thickness, and the thickness was 11/16. And I ordered 6. I only needed 4. The reason for that is when you're assembling stuff, especially if you're doing it on the lift or even on jack stands, and you drop one, they're round. They roll all the way across the shop. So to have a couple of extra while I'm pre-fitting is great. And I'm going to have these powder-coated black, and I'm going to have all 6 powder-coated black, so that while I'm assembling, again, if I drop one, I'll have another one, and I won't have to, if I can't find it, then I'll have another one that I can just put in, and it won't be a big deal. But those are in, and then I've got the other spare spacers over here, so you can see what they look like. So that's what they look like. They're just aluminum machine spacers. You can see they're 5/8 diameter, 1/4 inch hole in the center, and they're 11/16 in height. There's thickness, depending on how you want to categorize them. So that's what they are. And I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to zip tie these to the battery tray when we take it in for powder coat, so that they have the best chance of returning here to the shop. So I'll take all 6 of these and tie wrap them just to one of the holes in the battery tray. I'll keep the hardware here, because obviously I'm not going to have the hardware powder coated. But that's one more thing that will be going to the powder coater. I haven't heard back from the owner about this back panel. It doesn't get powder coat, so I'm concentrating my efforts on all of those pieces that I believe are going to get coated, and get those over to the powder coater so we can get them back here and get them assembled on the car. So I think that's it for now. You can see the hole here in the back where the gas tank was. It's outside. I've got coat number 2 on it right now, and I'm going to try for one more coat on the top today, and then I'll flip it over, and tomorrow it'll probably get one coat on the bottom. Then I'm going to leave it outside to dry for at least a day, and then we'll go for a reinstall. So I will catch up with you guys tomorrow. All right, it is a brand new day. Music update. Pink Floyd in the Flesh from the Wall album. The fuel tank is ready to go back in. So I'm not sure if I showed you guys, but I pulled the sender out, but I took and left the hanger and the fuel pump in because it would have been more work to get it out, because this is the Pro-Am large bore or whatever fuel hanger with the -6 inlet and outlet, and it's tight going in. Now, we did all the clearances like they tell you in the instructions in order to make it fit better, but it's still a bitch to get in and out, so I just didn't bother. The vent actually went back in just now. I'm going to slide this under the car, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait till tomorrow to put this in, because I want to get some foam tape to put across here, across the back, and across the side where it meets the bottom of the chassis right here. There was a small gap in there, and it was uneven. And so what I want to do is use the foam tape to just kind of take up the gap and kind of level out any inconsistencies in it. I don't know that you have to do that. I looked in the build manual. It doesn't mention anything about it, but it's metal on metal. And my feeling is over time, it may develop a squeak. And granted, these cars are loud, especially with the side pipes, but still, you don't want an unnecessary squeak, 10,000 miles down the road, and trying to figure it out, especially if it's under the car, it's just going to be a giant pain in the ass. So we'll just do something now to take care of it, hopefully. And then what I did is, I noticed in the instructions, it's still, even for the Coupe, it gives you these, I don't know, they're kind of half-ass instructions on how to put the fuel filler strap in. And so what I did is I drilled a hole all the way through the chassis. So when the fuel tank was in, I drilled through the 1/4-inch hole that's in the bottom of the tank, or the side of the tank, all the way through. And you can see right here, I ground a little bit of the powder coat off the chassis. What we're going to do is, when we mount that fuel tank strap or fuel filler strap, it's going to actually sandwich in between the chassis and the fuel tank. But I want a place to have a ground for not just the tank, but for the Le Mans cap that attaches to the fiberglass at the top, so that no static or anything else can discharge into the fuel nozzle as you're filling up and have the possibility of igniting a fire. So I've got that taken care of. The fuel tank will go in probably tomorrow. I did want to show you my mod for the accelerator pedal. So I got delivery from Mike yesterday. We took one of Mike's AC. You can get this where they say V8, like I think he calls them his hot rod style. We took the pedal, and you can see we even used 3 of the mounting holes that it comes with, and we mounted it to our accelerator pedal. And I had to make some recesses for the grommets that go top and bottom. I also had to make some holes, one on this side, so that if you ever needed to pop out that center cap, if you want to know what these other 2 holes are for right here on the left and the right, those are so if you ever have to take the pedal cover off, you basically stick I like to use an Allen key, because you can use the flat of it to kind of pop the thing off, because we just put a dab of silicone in the center, and that holds that center cap in. And so if you ever need to get into the bolts, you just take an Allen key, pop it out from the back side, and then clean off the silicone, and then you can reapply it after you do whatever you're going to do to the pedal pad. But I got that mod done yesterday. What I'm waiting on now, before I install that the final time, is the heat and sound mat. I want to get the heat and sound mat inside the foot box on that wall and the front wall, so that I just don't have to kind of deal with it later. Let me get this light turned off. The other thing that I worked on yesterday was the accelerator cable. And so I've got the accelerator cable into the upper hole for the the pillow block bearing that goes through the front of the foot box right here. So you can see it goes right in there. It just happens to be the same thread size as the bolts that are used in there. And it lines up perfect with the way I've got our accelerator pedal going in there. And then I had to shorten the sleeve for the cable to get enough throw to activate our stacks. So I cut about an inch and a half off. I've got the cable itself here on the bench, so you can see I saved it. So it's got the little ball on the end of it. And if you've read the instructions, this is what goes through the accelerator pedal at the top. And then there's a catch that comes with the stacks that you feed the cable through, and it pops down. It's a little barrel, and it pops down into their assembly, their swivel assembly that activates the stacks. And I needed that extra inch or inch and a half in order to get the cable to be long enough to reach where that barrel connector is going to be. So that's all pretty much ready to go as soon as I get the accelerator pedal in. That's the thing. So I want to get some of the heat and sound mat in, but as you know, luck would have it, I have the fuel tank sitting on the boxes for our heat and sound mat. So, you know, if it ain't one thing, it's another. I'm going to get this moved underneath the car onto our bridge jack, and then I'll have access to the heat and sound mat, but you probably won't see any heat and sound mat until probably the next video. So I think I'm going to leave this video here, and I'll catch up with you guys next week. So until then, if you're enjoying the content here, please do the like, the share, the subscribe, all that kind of stuff. We'll see you next time. Have a great day.